Hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you're watching this. So today we are going to talk about topic 10, lesson 3, and it can be found on page 555 of your math book. And what we are focused on today is multiplying a fraction by a whole number. Now, the next thing it says, use symbols. What does that mean to use symbols? Well, in this case, it means to use the multiplication symbol. So instead of showing it as repeated addition, like we did maybe in the first 2 lessons, now we are going to be using our multiplication symbol. Okay. The next thing that I want to talk about is the solve and share, which is also on page 555. So I just kind of quickly wrote out the question, and I didn't write it in whole. I just wrote out the main points. So these people are making 8 gallons of fruit punch, and 1 gallon needs 3/4 of a cup of OJ, and I should have written cup there. 3/4 of a cup of OJ. Okay, so this does not mean, oh, I have to figure out how many cups are in a gallon. No, this is saying for each, and let's remember that word, each gallon, it needs 3/4 of a cup of orange juice. Now, the final question is, how many cups of orange juice are needed? So how many cups of orange juice are needed to make 8 gallons of fruit punch? Well, how many can mean that we are adding or we are multiplying. Multiplying is kind of like adding, it's repeated. It's repeated addition. So we need to figure out, using multiplication, how many cups of orange juice, or how many 3/4 cup of orange juice are used to make 8 gallons. So I came down here and I made a bar diagram. Now my bar diagram has 8 blocks. And in each block, it has the fraction 3/4. Well, again, 8 gallons, 3/4 per 1 gallon. And then ultimately, I want to know how many cups do I need. So that's why you see C. You see my variable here, C equals cups. Okay? So I could do repeated addition. I could add these all together. But instead, I showed it as a multiplication equation. So I put C equals 8 times 3/4. 8 for 8 gallons, 3/4 for each gallon is 3/4. It requires 3/4 orange juice. Okay, so let me show you how to solve this problem. The first thing you can do is you can take technically your numerators and multiply them. 8 times 3 over 4 equals 24 over 4. Now, because I am a very visual learner, this sometimes confused me when I was younger, because I would say, well, why, this is a whole number, why am I putting it over here? Well, because any whole number that you have has an invisible 1 as your numerator. It has like an invisible 1 as your numerator. So and this would probably help a lot of you, I write a 1 as my denominator. So I have my whole number as 8, and automatically underneath it is 8 over 1, because 8 over 1 equals 8. So you're pretty much telling me the same thing, you're just putting it in different terms. Because remember, this is an improper fraction. 1 divides into 8, 8 equal times. So 8 over 1 times 3/4. Now, this is how I like to do it. Again, you don't have to do it like this. I'm giving you options. And then I multiply across. if there's a number in the numerator, multiply across. If there's a number in the denominator, multiply across. Okay, so that's why I always add that 1. 8 times 3 equals 24. 1 times 4 equals 4. Multiply across, multiply across, multiply across. Okay, so now I have this answer right here, which is 24 over 4. But most of you are going to say, Mrs. Wells, you can't leave it like that. It's an improper fraction. You are correct. So I have to change my improper fraction to a mixed number. And the way that I do that, and I hope that most of you remember this, is I take my denominator and I divide it into my numerator. So 4 goes into 24. Okay? So I have to figure out how many times does 4 evenly divide into 24. So I say, I know that 4 can't go into 2, but I know that 4 can go into 24 as a whole. Okay? And I know that because I know my multiplication tables, 6 times 4 equals 24. So 4 divided into 24 is 6. So your final answer is 6 cups of OJ. 6 cups of OJ. Okay. While you are doing your practice buddy, which is what I'm having you guys do, please remember that you are going to be writing I would write the work out. So if you have a problem, I kind of go up here and erase this a little bit and realize this. So if you have a problem that looks like this, okay, 12 times 5 over 6, and yes, this is a 5. Okay, first thing I am going to do is I am going to add a 1 underneath my whole number. Because again, I'm just showing it to you differently. It all is the same number, okay? And then I multiply across, multiply across, multiply across. Okay, so I do 12 times 5. Now, I know what 12 times 5 is, but I might have to also do this, and that's okay. This is part of showing your work. 5 times 2 is 10. 5 times 1 is 5, plus 1 is 6. So I get 60 as my numerator. Then I multiply across, multiply across, multiply across. And I get 1 times 6, and that equals 6. Now, I cannot leave my answer as an improper fraction, so I have to divide. 6 divides into 60. And I know that 6 divides into 6 one whole time. So I'm going to I want to separate that from my work. 6 goes into 6 one time. 1 times 6 equals 6. I subtract that. I get nothing left over. I bring down my 0. And then I start my division process all over again. 6 goes into 0. 0 times 6 is 0. I have nothing left over and nothing else to bring down. So my answer to this is 10. Now, there are going to be times that you will have a mixed number as your answer. There will be times where you have a mixed number as your answer. So you might have something that looks like this. And these are from the book. I'm just taking examples straight from the book. So I have 8 times 2 over 5. Now, I can do this. Or I can do this. But no matter what, I multiply across. So 8 times 2 is 16, and I keep my denominator as 5. Or I multiply across. 8 times 2 is 16. 1 times 5 is 5. It doesn't matter. I did my work 2 different ways, and I still got the same answer. So I'm going to come down over here, and I'm going to write my answer of 16/5. Now, I need to make this improper fraction proper. So I divide. Five goes into 16, but not evenly. So 5, 10, 15. So if I go one more, that's 20, so that's too much. So 5 goes into 16 3 times evenly. 3 times 5 is 15, and I have 1 remaining. Now, if you remember doing this in class, which I know most of you should or do, you guys are rock stars, you remember that this number right here is your whole number. 5 goes into 16 3 whole times. Whatever is remaining is my numerator, and my denominator stays the same. Okay? All right, I hope that this was helpful. You can access the Pearson Realize video on 10.3 under visual learning. So if you want a little bit more and you want to walk through that visual learning question with Pearson, more than welcome to. You're more than welcome to watch this video multiple times. The biggest thing is to just understand this and practice this and do your best. Ask questions if you have them. I hope everybody has a great day. Bye-bye.